Hi, everyone. The new investment hierarchy that's now available in 15.7.1. So let's start off with what's new. The first thing you'll notice that there's a beta tag there. It is actually in the product. When you navigate in, you'll see that. The main point here is this is our first iteration of capabilities for hierarchies. If you recall the path that our road mapping capability took and continues to take, this is very similar. Hierarchy is version 1 here. We're going to talk about some great capabilities that are here, but we're not done. There's quite a bit more work to be done. We will have many iterations or releases, I should say, to bring in new functionality. So I'm going to kind of talk about what we've got now. So first thing, this is a new workspace. You can see the new navigation element that's there in the menu it's called hierarchies. This is an area, as you can see, to visually organize your investments, and it supports projects, custom investment types, and ideas. And of course, the key thing here is you can create multiple hierarchies, and I'll talk about what that really means in just a second. There is a way to organize them visually, as you can see here with this image, and then there are some capabilities here to navigate, zoom in, zoom out, pan, and scan and pan, if you will. The other last element here, which I'll also show in the demo, is, well, how do you bring in content into this? So there's some powerful tools that we're bringing forward using our common grid capability. It's a multi-select grid, multi-select capability grid. It's the first implementation of this capability in our common grid that will roll out to other parts of the other grids in future releases. So that's kind of the key elements here. Why is this important? Most tools have a single hierarchy, just really, and it's there because it's designed around how work is being delivered. Think about an engineering delivery hierarchy. But in the context of the investment hierarchy, there's different personas, and they want to manage work in different ways, and so our system needs to support multiple hierarchies. I've listed a few of the personas in terms of stakeholders here and really what their goals are as they work within the hierarchy. We have our strategic managers that want to are responsible and have oversight of corporate strategies, and they want to see how those strategies are, how they're executing against those strategies. Secondly, is we have this product line manager. Their job, as you can expect, is to manage a portfolio of products. And they also want to be able to create and track and monitor the performance of those products within that product line across the company. A cross-functional manager, somebody who's managing an initiative that cuts across the organization. They may not be responsible for the delivery per se, but they want to make sure that all of these supporting initiatives are completed on time. The last one here is what we're probably most familiar with in terms of a program manager. They have a major program they're responsible for, and there's multiple projects that are ongoing, or initiatives that are ongoing underneath that major program. They want to be able to track how that program itself is evolving over time. So think of this investment hierarchy as a personal workspace to organize the work you need. Key thing here is it supports multiple hierarchies for a variety of reasons, and I've outlined a couple of personas here that are interested in, having more than one hierarchy available to them. So some of the basic stuff I want to cover off on, and we already touched on. There's a new workspace called hierarchies positioned there, and it becomes available should you have that navigate right. So there's a new set of rights or permissions that are available to access, number one, the hierarchy workspace, and then perform certain activities from create, edit, delete, and view. So these are basic permissions that are afforded to other parts of the application, and so these are now a set of specific rights for the hierarchy workspace. So I'm going to go through a few examples here of the investment hierarchy based on those personas I just showed you, and we'll get into looking at this live in just a minute. So think about the program hierarchy. That's the one I mentioned that, of course, we're all familiar with from a program and project relationship. So as I mentioned before, the hierarchy supports projects, custom investment types, and ideas. This is an example here of just something that is a custom investment type that has been deemed a program, and you're associating visually here projects underneath the program. You'll notice some color coding that's here. That today is based on the work status attribute that determines the color coding of it. The navigation window that's there on the left-hand side is an expandable utility that allows you to position that little, expand collapse window there and move it around the hierarchy should you have a complex hierarchy or multi-card hierarchy. So it helps you move around, zoom in, zoom out. You can of course use your mouse to scroll left to right, but both of those are available as ways to move around within that. So this is an example of the program hierarchy. We talked about the strategic manager. So obviously these are, a strategy is a custom investment type called strategy, but at the end of the day, we're bringing in multiple investment types, and this example is comprised solely of custom investment types, but this is the way in which a strategic manager is going to understand all the work they're investing in and how it aligns with their main strategies. You can see in this example, we've got, I'm moving my mouse around, delight customers as a key strategy. And then there's a number of objectives below that that are going to be organized. And then you've got a number of other initiatives, what have you, that roll up to that or associated with it from a visual standpoint. Last but not least, here is the product hierarchy. Again, it could be comprised of custom investment types, ideas, and projects. But here, this is where the product line manager of retail banking products, here I'm hovering in the upper right here. This is retail banking. You can see there's multiple products that roll up into the product line. And then you can see here there is a couple of releases going on for loan applications. We've got release 5 and release 4 going. This is very similar in the way in which the Clarity PPM team uses its own product today, and we'll be, of course, adopting this type of visual tools and analysis shortly. We use a project within our product management group, and I shouldn't say product management, the product team, to manage a given release. So at a glance, you can see the product line manager can see all of these initiatives that roll up to a given release. Moving on, this is just an example in our system of a cross-organizational hierarchy. Again, it's a major program, we'll call it Brexit, and there's a number of things that are going on from products, initiatives, so there's multiple products that roll up to this program. But again, it's another way for the cross-organizational manager to monitor these initiatives that are ongoing. Okay, so how do we get all this information into the system? As I mentioned, we're introducing I'll call it this multi-select capability to the common grid. In this implementation, the first thing that the user is going to do is, based on their permissions, import, projects, ideas, or custom investment types. And so for those that you have permission, you will see that in the investment type. So that's the first thing you're going to do, is select an investment type, if you will. And then you've got our common filtering capability to further refine the type of, let's say, projects that you wanted to bring into the hierarchy. I'll demonstrate this as we get into it. But that is, and as you first, maybe you start with projects and select a number of those that you're interested in, and then you switch to, I'll call it product, a custom investment type, and you search for and locate a number of those. The system is remembering as you perform each of these functions and keeping track of the total number of investments that you're going to bring in. And then you just say import, and then the visuals that I showed you earlier are then afforded to you to start creating your desired structure. And as I mentioned, this capability, this multi-select capability here will be expanded and implemented within other grids in the application and future releases. Let's talk here about the investments. I'm sorry, the metrics that are presented on the cards. The card option capability here that's depicted in this image is the same capabilities that are afforded to other parts of the product. So, for example, the boards that are in each of the investment type areas, it's the same thing. You define the title, the fields, and the metrics. And there's the same limitations as far as how many metrics you can place on an individual card. And as I mentioned, you don't control it, the coloring through the card options. That's a function today of the work status attribute associated with the investment that it's depicting. One thing you're probably asking or going to ask is the aggregation of data. Right now, the metrics that are selected, the multiple metrics that are selected through card options are applied to all cards, regardless of their type. And then the metric that's actually displayed on the individual card is for that specific investment. So in other words, the aggregation of a roll-up from bottom to top is not available in this release. It is coming in a future release. We're really excited to get working on that and provide that roll-up capability. There's also another thing we're looking at, just so you know, is that when you will be able to, in a future release, have metrics that are unique for each investment type. So, for example, a project, you may have a certain set of metrics. For a product as a custom investment type, you may have a certain set of metrics, et cetera. So that'll be coming in a future release. Okay, let's go. All right, so let's jump into the product here real quick. So in the demo, we're going to just look at those hierarchies and understand how to use them. We'll define a new hierarchy. We'll use that multi-select grid capability and the filters to import investment types, and then we'll create that structure. We'll use the card options to configure the metrics. Then there's a couple things I just want to show you as far as behavior when you delete a card or you delete an actual instance. And then last but not least, we'll kind of show that drill down from the hierarchy itself into a project, for example, and then update the status and then navigate back. All right, so as I mentioned, we have a hierarchy icon over here. I'm a super user, so I'm going to have all kinds of capabilities to create, view, edit, delete. As I mentioned, we are in the beta, and so the tag is there when you come to the list. And as hierarchies are created, as I mentioned, these personas up front have different needs. So the product line manager, the cross-functional manager, the strategy manager, the program manager, each have unique needs when it comes to looking at their investments that they're responsible for or interested in monitoring. And so that's why we see multiple hierarchies here. So first thing I'm going to do is go into retail banking. We mentioned this was the product line manager persona, and I'm responsible for retail banking. Now here's, this is a rather robust hierarchy here, a lot of detail. I can use this tool that's over on the left. I just expanded the window there. If I wish, I can move the I'm just dragging and moving the focus area, and that becomes a tool for me to navigate around quickly and look at my hierarchy. Of course, if I want, I can come all the way out. You can see there's different zoom levels, and when I do that, there's different levels of detail that are afforded to me as I'm doing that. I'm using my mouse now, scrolling on my mouse and navigating left and right to get a little bit deeper in and looking at the information. So you can see there's different ways of getting in and around the hierarchy itself. Let's see. The next thing I wanted to do is just kind of come back out. There's a return button back. I could have also obviously clicked on the hierarchy menu item as well. I'm just going to come into, our program management view here. Again, same tools. This is a little bit more from a demonstration perspective. This is a much more simple view here. But again, I can, do what I want to, this is my navigation tool to get in and around, and I'm using my scroll bar, which you can't see, on my mouse to bring this thing in and out of perspective. All right, so let's come out of that, and we're going to create a new hierarchy. So I've created one here before today, which we'll come back to, but I'm going to come in and create a new hierarchy. Just give it a name that represents today. The ID is set to manual creation 7. I'll do that. There's only one type here, and today it's an investment hierarchy. This is a placeholder for us to expand and go into other types of hierarchies. For example, resources, OBS. There's a number of things, departments. There's a number of things we can do here going forward, and we plan to do to create different types of hierarchies that are available to the users. But today, it's based on investments. Testing. Okay, so there's my newly created hierarchy. I'm just going to click on that link. As you can see, it's telling me there's nothing here. So let's get started. I've got my import button over here that's going to bring up this multi-select grid that I talked about. And based on, there's a couple things. This is our common grid, as you can imagine. There's all the exports, the filters, save views, etc., group bys, what have you, are all here. Different information that I want to bring into the grid are here based on the investment type that I've selected. It defaulted there to initiatives, and I don't have any views afforded to me from the custom investment type, but as I select, for example, projects, there is saved views that are available that will come over. So if I've got a saved view for projects, that will come over and present. They'll be used and leveraged even as I navigate into hierarchies. So while I'm here in projects, I just want to show a couple things. I can skip, and notice that as I select, right, I've multi-selected different items. It's keeping track of how many I've got. I do have the select all or deselect all function here. As I do select all, it's going to grab everything in view. Deselect all, I'll just go back and grab a few things there. If I want, I am going to come into my filter. You can see I've already got, a template active. Work status is another. I'll just start over. I'll just grab the filter, and I'm going to use work status just as for fun. And again, this, the multi-select capabilities there in our pull downs. This is no different over here. And so that is a further, filter. I guess I could, take out close. I don't really want those over in the hierarchy. I still only have 3 selected. So I'm going to go ahead now and switch over to a couple of investments, or I should say, I'll just go and get a strategy. Let's see, I've only got a few here, so I don't really need to go through all the complexities of using the filter. I'm going to just say delighter customers. Now I noticed that I clicked on one more, and it went to 4 items are selected, right? It's keeping track as I move around here to add items to my hierarchy. So I'm just going to click add. Very simple. I could repeat that process and go to any number of initiatives. Anyway, so, or I shouldn't say initiatives, any other investment types, and perform the same functions. So now we're in this new hierarchy. Obviously, it's very simple, but let's talk about the construction of it, defining the hierarchy. So I had my strategy here, right? There was delight customers. I want to kind of relate everything to that guy. As you can see, it's starting to organize based on, I'm dragging from what I want to be a child to what I expect, what I want to be a parent, right? If I do that and just drag it over here, it's going to reconstruct. So this is a very simple example. Let me kind of get this into the middle. Get rid of that. So I can come back and I can grab a few more things. I've already established that kind of hierarchy structure. I'm going to grab my product line. I only have one, I think. I can't remember. I'll do retail banking. I'm going to add that. So it's going to come back in. There's my new one that's right there. I'm going to go ahead and hook that up there. Right, so that is how you basically create the desired hierarchical structure. Let me do something here. I think I have a project here, BI Anywhere. You'll see there's a link here. That becomes a navigation element on all of these guys, all of the cards. So I clicked on that, and it took me directly into, in this example, the project, BI Anywhere, and it's going to land me on, of course, the first module that's configured in the first tab. But one thing I wanted to show, so I'm actually in, I'm in the project, and I can manipulate it and do the things that I would expect to be able to do should I have the permissions. One thing I wanted to show you was the status here. Work status is the way in which the colors are here. So I'm just going to change it from, I think it was green just a second ago, and I've got a link back to the hierarchy. And so BI Anywhere just updated there, the status changed. Let's talk about configuring the cards real quick. I did the same card options that are available as far as the user experience that are like in our boards are afforded here. And so this is great. I can just pick that. You know, I've got the different fields I want to have on here. I've done that. I'm going to add a metric. I'm going to do, let's see, what have I got here? I'm going to do plan costs. And so you'll see, and there's limited data in our system here. There it goes. But it updated the field for all of the investment types, regardless of their type. So, you know, we have a project here. We have a custom investment type here called strategy. And as I mentioned, the metric itself is for the investment or the card itself. In the future, we will have the ability to, via card options, define your roll-up or aggregation strategies. So that's coming in a future release. One thing I wanted to show you was kind of the behavior of deleting a card. So here's a simple example of a parent and a child. Let me kind of make this a little more complex. I'll just give it 2 children. So I have my parent and 2 children, just for sake of showing you. So I can click on the card just anywhere, not the link, but anywhere on the card. And there is no right click to delete or remove. You just hit the delete button on your keyboard. And what happens is those 2 that were pointing to that one parent automatically are now connected to the parent that was in between there. So you saw that those readjusted and moved up. So I'll do that again. I'll just connect here. And I'm going to delete this guy right here, ARD. My expectation here is that retail banking will now become a child of Delight customers. So go ahead and do that. So that's kind of the behavior of removing cards. I'll show you one more time, just kind of the bringing in. Let me just grab, I think I'll just grab a few strategies. I'll grab all of those 4 or 5, I'll add them, and they'll come in, and they won't have any relationships established. This is now up to the user to create the desired hierarchical structure. One note, and I'll talk about this, let me try and do a strategy here, delight customers real quick. I'll come in, I'll go strategy, I'll grab delight customers. That one is already in the hierarchy, but I forgot that it was already there, right? So I'm going to try it, and it's going to say, hey, it brought up that error message. So it's going to just tell you, hey, it's already there. You can't bring it in. So you can't really mess up the system. The last thing I wanted to show you here was coming back to my hierarchies. Oops, let me click over here to hierarchies. Here's Dave's support training hierarchy, right? We created all that. I'm just going to come back to my hierarchy list, and I'm going to delete the one. We actually just created this one, right? Fairly simple for our testing purposes. I just want to show you the behavior. You just go into here, right click the normal grid function to delete a row, and now you've removed that actual hierarchy instance from the system. Now again, that is a unique right that is afforded to a user, so users just need to be aware of that. There's no way to recover once you delete it. Thank you.